The Suzuki King Quad 500 AXI and Yamaha Grizzly 450 are both mid-level sport utility ATVs that don't receive enough attention in my opinion. So let's give them a look in this video and discuss the pros and cons of each to find out which may be a better fit for you. I owned a 2009 Suzuki King Quad 500 AXI for about a year, and my buddies had a 2009 Yamaha Grizzly 450 EPS for almost 10 years now. I admit that comparing the Grizzly 550 would be a fairer comparison, but I don't know anyone who owns a Grizzly 550, so the 450 it is, process of elimination. After spending a lot of time on both, it's not that unfair of a comparison in my opinion. Both quads have a lot to offer someone looking for a very capable, comfortable, and fun to ride machine that offers a fair amount of utility and flexibility, and lots of different uses, as well as it won't completely break the bank. The Grizzly's carbureted, and the 450cc engine puts out 26 horsepower to move along a 620-pound machine, while the King Quad has fuel injection, a 500cc engine, and makes 38.2 horsepower to move along at 661 pounds. For frame of reference, the 550 Grizzly makes 36.9 horsepower, still a little less than the King Quad. Both quads offer automatic CVT-based transmissions with high, low, park, neutral, and reverse, electronic shift-on-the-fly push-button four-wheel drive with front diff lock, power steering, and independent rear suspension. Both have places for waterproof storage, feature a 12-volt DC power connector, have utility racks, and a tow hitch mount. The Grizzly has a smaller frame and is 43 inches wide and 78.5 inches long. King Quad 500 is based on the same frame as the 700, so it's 4.6 inches wider and 5 inches longer than the Grizzly. Ground clearance is about the same on both at 11 inches. Both quads are all-day comfortable with excellent ergonomics, a very comfortable seat and riding position. But when riding becomes more aggressive and technical, the King Quad feels much bigger and heavier than just the 40 pounds on the scale would show. Leaning it over or getting a wheel off the air starts to feel sketchy fast, while moving my weight around on the quad seemed to have less effect on keeping things where they needed to be. However, on the Grizzly, you can really move around and control the center of gravity when on the tricky stuff much easier to keep yourself and the quad out of trouble. Both quads have reasonable power, but the King Quad obviously feels and is faster with the extra 12 horsepower, especially in acceleration and top end. The width of the King Quad and the power make it a little easier to hang the tail out and drift. The Grizzly will still do that too, but with a bit more effort and body English. Both quads can sound meaner with aftermarket exhausts, but that also takes away from the utility. Both quads are easy to trail jump, and the IRS is very forgiving on landing. But the King Quad again feels heavier when jumping, and the factory shocks bobbing out much faster than on the Grizzlies. The King Quad's chassis and motor are up for more aggressive riding, but the suspension is the limiting factor. It could definitely use a set of Elka shocks all the way around. The power steering is a godsend on both machines and makes technical terrain much easier to ride over and less fatiguing. The Grizzly has the superior system though, and its settings are incredible. It never feels floaty or detached, but soaks up rocks the size of footballs with barely a twitch. You start to get amazed at just how fast you can ride over the rough stuff and how much less energy you use. The King Quad is very smooth, but when the terrain gets really rough at speed, the EPS is not quite as forgiving at filtering out hits. It's still better than no EPS, but not as impressive as the Grizzly, and you still have to pay attention so a root or rock doesn't yank the bars out of your hands. Both quads have excellent electronic four-wheel drive systems with a nice low gear for rock crawling or towing, and a locking front diff that will make these things crawl up trees. I'd say both systems are similar and work great, so it's basically a tie there. The transmission gear selector on the Suzuki is butter smooth and very easy to use. The Grizzlies can be a bit uncooperative, and it can take some rocking back and forth to get the quad to admit it's in park. Brakes work well on both quads, and both quads have separate hand levers for front and rear brakes, along with rear brake pedals, for great feel and control. I prefer this setup to the Polaris one lever approach. Both quads also have engine braking, which is well calibrated and helps with control on steeper technical descents. Both quads get excellent fuel mileage and can manage 3 to 4 hour rides in one tank of gas. And both feature a digital dash. I'd say the overall feel of the King Quad is again that it's just smooth. It's very easy and comfortable to ride, relaxing even, and with 2 people. Makes a mellow exhaust note, and it's a great quad to have around the yard or farm for cruising and utility. However, I ended up trading mine for a Can-Am Renegade 500 because the King Quad just couldn't handle the abuse of aggressive riding I was doing. On my first 2-hour ride, I managed to break a battery cable terminal and crack a piece of front plastic from jumping smaller jumps. And yes, I agree that's not what this quad is made for, but it finds its trail limits pretty quickly. I've been riding with my pal in the same manner and same pace for years with his Grizzly, and he has never had a single issue. It's jumped, slid, climbed, rolled, and crawled over everything without a single issue. No mechanical failure, squeaking, breaking, or cracking to this day. It's one of the most reliable quads I've ever seen, and I can wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone no matter what type of riding they do, whether it's hunting, hauling, or sending it over trail jumps and hanging out sideways on a boulder. Hats off to Yamaha for the Grizzly. Job well done. Also, I usually end the videos talking about used pricing, but the pricing is so unstable with ATVs right now. You can still find good deals, but you better be ready to make an offer within 20 minutes of the posting and go buy the machine that day, if the person stays true to their word. Good luck. Thanks for watching and happy riding.